I can see, as long as his physical skills will enable him to improve, I can see this season, as you said, being a wake-up call for him. And I could see, if I'm the Browns, I'm looking at those other two knuckleheads as the examples to hopefully straighten out Gilbert and allow me to reap some of the benefits from him being another high pick, because I do think that his cases is different than the other ones there. Manziel, and you know,
I agree. I think he could maybe just sort of stand at the, tell Justin Gilbert, hey, we're at the crossroads here. You can go this direction or you can go that direction. Yeah. It's up to you to choose which one you want to do. And,
exactly.
So maybe that'll be enough of, like you say, a wake-up call season for him. And I think he does have the physical skills. I've said it a million times on the show, probably tired of hearing me say it, that I think NFL cornerback's the toughest position to play in all of team sports.
I agree.
So, and it often takes cornerbacks 2 or 3 seasons to round into form. There are a couple of exceptions this year of a couple of rookies that played very well, but they're going to hit the wall too, and they're going to have their moments. But
Hayden was the same way.
Like you, not ready to quite throw him on the scrap heap yet, and give him a choice of okay, you can work, you can be a team guy, you can prepare, you can get ready to go, or you can follow these other two knuckleheads out of town.
And if I'm the Browns, the example that I'm showing Justin Gilbert is Buster Screen. I'm going, hey, look, we brought this guy in. And look at how he got torched. I mean, he just got shredded the first year that he was there. And everybody was like, this guy's terrible. And the Browns need to get rid of this guy. What did he do? When the Browns did think about it, he went and had the best offseason he had. He went and put his nose to the grindstone, came back as one of the most improved players on the Browns the next year. So,
Yeah, it's also, and they're going to need to work hard to sign him because they need him. He's a free agent, and we'll have to work hard to sign the kid.
Well, absolutely. That's one of we talked a little bit about that the other day. There's a couple of decisions there that the Browns are going to have to make, unrestricted and less troublesome, but you have the restricted ones as well. Quarterback's going to be one of those too. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Real quick with Josh Gordon, man. I mean, to me, that's the easiest of all of these discussions that we're having. Manziel, at least you got he only played 6 quarters. If you want to fool yourself into listening to that, you can at least talk yourself into it. To me, there is not an argument anybody can make to keep Josh Gordon on your football team.
Yeah, I'd have to go along with that. Let him be someone else's problem. He's immensely talented. He's also a head case, and who knows whether he'll be eligible to play week to week. He's got to go a year, I guess, understanding under the new agreement, clean from the drug use before he can sort of get that slate wiped clean. Maybe he'll do it, maybe he won't. But at this point, I don't think I'm going to shed any tears if they cut Josh Gordon loose. Like you say, look after your team's best interests. See if you can get a middle-round draft pick for the guy. If you can, great. If not, hey, we'll move on.
And unlike Manziel, I'll be honest with you, Josh Gordon is the one that I do expect to hit the ground running somewhere else, because I think that the way he's acted since he came back from his suspension, I think there's some clear intent here. Whether you want to say it's anger at the Browns specifically, at the entire NFL, at him being suspended, maybe he's mad that he felt he was unfairly treated, maybe he didn't like who the quarterback was. There's been all kinds of speculation all along the way. But he's the one that I do believe is absolutely tanking it on purpose to get out of Cleveland. I mean, I'm sorry. I find it hard to believe. I get being out of sync with the offense and all of that, but the pure laziness, that's not just being rusty. You're an elite world-class athlete. You're clearly dogging it on purpose. For what that reason is, I don't know. We can all speculate on that. But nobody's going to tell me that Josh Gordon wasn't tanking his way out of town.
Yeah, it certainly did appear that way. And you hear people say that, the guy is just such a smooth, gliding athlete that when he's going full speed, he looks like he's dogging it. But that only goes so far. I mean, and you could also say that he didn't understand. He came back and it took him a while to get involved in the offense. I thought Hoyer, was very gracious in not pointing the finger at him, because some of those crucial interceptions that people were vilifying Hoyer for were obviously Gordon's fault for breaking off routes or dogging it on routes or running the wrong route or whatever. And Hoyer could have pointed the finger, thrown him under the bus, and didn't do it because that's the kind of guy Hoyer is. But yeah, I think you've got to say that the Browns did not get 100% effort out of Josh Gordon. That seems to be beyond dispute.
No doubt, no doubt. And since you brought up Hoyer, let's talk about quarterbacks a little bit. He's also a decision that the Browns have to make. I'm not going to – some of you that don't like Hoyer aren't going to be my friend after I tell you this, but I'm telling you that I've been told this from within the Browns organization. You may not like Brian Hoyer, but the Cleveland Browns organization does, and they have more appreciation for him than they did 4 weeks ago. You can take it to the bank whether you do or not, and I'm just going to tell you that unless Brian Hoyer decides that he has done his time in Cleveland and he's going to go try to ply his trade somewhere else, or asks for some extremely ridiculous amount of money, which is out of character for Brian Hoyer, to be totally honest with you, then Brian Hoyer is going to be your starting quarterback next year, and I think Connor Shaw and perhaps Manziel will be in their mix for who may get the chance to back him up. But I think that you look at the options coming out, people are going to say, Mark Sanchez. What names are you going to throw at me? Sanchez. Who are you going to throw at me? Grossman's hanging out there. I mean, there's a couple of free agents, Colt McCoy. I mean, to me, there is no better option of what's going to be available this year than to bring back the incumbent and stop with the circus over his shoulder and bring back the team, add some pieces to it, and let Brian Hoyer go win you as many games as he can next year until you figure out the question.
Yeah, that's fair to say. And if nothing else, it's because you're going to need to have somebody lined up behind center next fall. And certainly right now, before the draft rolls around, and even after the draft, I'm sure, Brian Hoyer is going to be your best prospect to win games in the NFL next year. And that might be a very relative statement. Certainly is. But you know, in the absence of a better option, there's some pressure, in fact, on the Browns to sign Brian Hoyer because otherwise it's one great, big, huge question mark. And if it's not Brian Hoyer, it's going to be someone extremely green that's lined up behind center next year, even if on the off chance John Manziel happens to be that guy. So, you need to negotiate in good faith with Brian Hoyer and try to persuade him to that there's a home for him here and that you want him back.
Look at some of those defenses, too. For those of you guys that want to say, why would you do that? You need a quarterback that can handle the schedule that the Browns are going to have next season because they're going to have some tough defenses. I know they've got the NFC West teams. I believe they've got the AFC East teams, too, right? They got the Patriots are in there next season. Definitely you got those tough triad of defenses coming from the NFC West there. There's going to be some challenges, obviously all three of the AFC North teams as well, because let's talk about Connor Shaw. Connor Shaw showed me enough yesterday, and I'm curious where you're at with it. That, number one, he helped frame the Johnny Manziel argument to me, because if you're going to look at skill sets, you would probably say Connor Shaw more like Johnny Manziel than Brian Hoyer as far as the type of quarterback that he was and that he played in college. So actually you would think that his performance would lean closer towards Manziel's in this offense if you were looking to blame the offense for Johnny Manziel's problems. So you would think you would see some of those same problems. I think the decency that we saw out of Connor Shaw, which is what it was, he played a decent game at quarterback, didn't make a bunch of killer mistakes, had some bad throws, some good ones, and some good runs, and he did well. Didn't have a lot of procedural problems and stuff, so he did well. I think that spotlighted why Johnny Manziel is the bust that he is because this cat sat on the practice squad. He didn't even practice. He sat around and watched everybody else practice all season and was more prepared and was able to handle an NFL game plan against, I think, a tougher defense than what Manziel faced in the Baltimore Ravens, and a Ravens team that was playing to win, or at least supposedly were playing to win yesterday. I think, again, it doesn't mean Connor Shaw is all that, but it really puts into perspective exactly what Johnny Manziel's debut and how bad it really was when another guy who had the same prep, same opportunity, same offense, same problem, same everything, at least handled the job competently. So I think that reframes that as well. But he showed me enough that if the Browns, to me, were interested in bringing back Hoyer and Shaw as their quarterback combo, I would be okay with that next year.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's fair. I think what we saw was, I think he's what a friend of mine likes to call Jag, just a guy. He's
right.
just a guy. He's not your guy long term, but what he was resourceful. What he was, the biggest thing, the biggest difference that I can see is he's just bigger, stronger. He can't be brought down if someone breathes hard on him like Johnny can. So, he's a guy. He's a guy who can get you half a yard with a quarterback sneak on 4th and a half yard, where you wouldn't trust Johnny Manziel to do that just because he'd bounce off everybody, and he's not big enough to do that. Connor Shaw was a very good runner at South Carolina, and he's a durable runner, and he's a strong kid. So just the size factor alone is enough to give him the coin flip choice between the two of them. Like you say, they were both rookies. They both came out of the SEC. They both had similar backgrounds, and although Shaw obviously was a starter for more years at the college level, I liked what I saw. Even again with the disclaimer that he's just a guy. He's not a long-term guy. We're looking at this point for a serviceable backup because that's what we think Johnny Manziel's ceiling is. And I think right now, certainly if it was a coin flip, I'd take Shaw. If for no other reason than he's heady and savvy and bigger than Manziel and able to be a more durable runner.
Yeah, and again, I just thought even, just if you wanted to look at it and frame it from the preparation, it really showed how underprepared and underappreciative of the opportunity and under-ready Manziel really was because, to me, just using a baseline, I think what you saw from Connor Shaw yesterday is the baseline of what your quarterback who got no reps with the first team all season but paid attention and knew how to operate the game plan. That was about what you were going to get, was the performance that you saw yesterday. Some good, some bad, nothing ugly. Just some good and some bad, And again, it really highlighted the divide there in what we ended up seeing with him. So, all of this, let's talk again, circling back to the effort. We talked about it at the beginning, and Mike Pettine, you and I laughed off the air. You mentioned it before, how he said, hey, tomorrow, which is today, I'll have some stuff to address. And I'm very interested for the next few days to see the words that are said by Mike Pettine and by the Browns organization, and then as things get rolling here, the actions that they take as well. But, again, I go back to those comments coming out of the locker room yesterday from countless players and I go back to Dansby and Whitner and Thomas, who mentioned specifically being talked to after the game by Jimmy Haslam and ownership and being reassured that the good apples will stay and the bad apples that don't want to help win and now will not be a part of this, because clearly some guys went to ownership and went to the Browns yesterday and in the last week and said, hey, I think we're building something good here, but we got to make sure that we don't let it get bogged down, because that's what's happened. Look, people act like since 1999 the Browns haven't started building anything good. There's been several times that they've almost had something decent going for themselves, and then it all gets unraveled here. And I think that's the key, is if you do think that they've gotten some good things going for themselves, the last thing that you do here is unravel any of it. You have to continue to build on top of what you're doing.
Yeah, that's true, and I think Haslam pointed at that in his comments after the game, and I'm paraphrasing him here because I can't remember his exact words, but it was when he said that, yes, that Pettine and Farmer will be back, and then he went on to say, but I won't guarantee that these other guys or whatever. I think he used a word like troublemakers or something like that. And you may have a direct quote in front of you somewhere, but where he said, Pettine and Farmer will be back, but I can't guarantee that some other people, and I think he used the word something like troublemakers, that maybe those people might not be back, or some other people might not be back. You wouldn't guarantee that or something.
Here's some of Jimmy's quotes, exactly what Dan's telling you guys about here. He said, players who can't show up for meetings, can't make practice, can't make weightlifting, they disrespect themselves, they disrespect the team, the coaches, the staff, the fans. There's a lot of people in our organization whose livelihood depends on how well we do. That was something that especially Whitner and Dansby were pointing out 2 weeks ago, that I think that hearing Jimmy Haslam say those words, that to me, he's repeating what those guys told him and what they said, because they used almost that exact quote about how people need to realize that in the NFL, you're not